Okay, simplifying radical expressions, removing perfect square factors. I know that sounds very complicated, but it's not too bad. We've got square root of 225 equals 15. We can break 225 down into factors of 9 and 25 because 9 times 25 equals 225. Now, the square root of 9, if we take the square root of 9, which is 3, times the square root of 225, times the square root of 25, which is 5, and we multiply 3 times 5, we get 15. Now, if you notice, 15 is the same answer you get up here whenever you do the square root of 225. The square root of 225 is 15. The square root of 9 times the square root of 25 is 15. Let's look over here at the 400. The square root of 400 is 20. Well, we can break 400 down into 4 times 100, and we take the square root of 4, which is 2, and the square root of 100, which is 10, and we multiply them together, and we get 20, which is the same answer that we got when we did the square root of 400 by itself. So what can you learn from this? Well, there's a couple of things. You can break the 400 down in the radicand, the 225 or the 400, you can break it down into different numbers on the inside and get the square root of them. The other thing that you can learn is that you can take, when you multiply radicals times radical expressions times themselves, all you got to do is multiply the numbers that are inside, the radicands, and get a new answer. So look, we've got square root of 9 times the square root of 25, and you go 9 times 25, and you get 225, which is equal to 15. Which means that you can also go square root of 5 times the square root of x and get the square root of 5x. Or you can go square root of a times the square root of b, and you would get the square root of ab. So it's an important concept to learn that whenever you have radical expressions and you multiply them by each other, you multiply the radicand times the radicand and get a new product on the inside. So when you're simplifying a radical expression, find the largest square number contained in the factors of the radicand. So if we're dealing with 500 and we want to simplify the square root of 500, we can break it down into 25 times 20, or we can break it down into 5 times 100. Well, what's the difference? Well, if you have 100 over 400, you can divide both the numerator and denominator by 20 over 20, and you'll get 5 over 20. But see, that's not completely simplified because 5 and 20 can both be divided by 5 and you get 1 over 4. What you should have divided by was 100 over 100. And then you would have gotten 100 divided by 100, 1, and 400 divided by 100, which would be 4. So this is simplest form. This is simplified, but this is simplest form. Well, this will give you a simplified version. But whenever you find the largest square number that's on the inside, it will give you the simplest form. So if we get the square root of 100, it will be 10, and we're left with square root of 5. So 10 square root of 5 is the simplified version of square root of 500. Let's try these, okay? This is the way I want you to do it. You've got the square root of 50. Break it down into the biggest square number that you can find, 25, times 2. Then get the square root of 25, which is 5. You put it on the outside, and what you're left with on the inside is the 2. On this one, you've got the square root of 18. So let's break it down into the square root of 9 times 2. Which gives us the square root, which gives us 3, which is the square of 9. Mark out the 9, and you're left with 2 on the inside. Now it's not always going to be 2 on the inside, but 2 is a popular number because it's a prime number, okay? On this one, it will be the square root of 4 times 3. Now the biggest number that would have gone into 12 other than 12 would have been 6, but 6 is not a square number. So we've got 4 times 3. Square root of 4 is 2, and you're left with 3 on the inside. Up here you'll break it down into 9 times d. And the square root of 9 is 3, and on the inside you're left with d. How about you try this one? Okay, try this one. Pause the video and get back with me and let's see how you did. Okay, we break it down into 13 times x squared, which will give us x squared, the square root is x, and you're left with 13 on the inside. Alright, pause the video again and try square root of 200. Okay, so I broke it down into 100 times 2, and the square root of 100 is 10, and you're left with 2 on the inside.